Hello everyone and welcome to Dorm Improvement. I'm your host Joe Kavicki, and alongside me today is my co-host Matt Kopleen. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joe. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Are you ready to get started with today's project?
Yeah, Joe, let's get started. What are we building today?
Alright, today we are building a shelf for a bed loft. Now lofts are a great way to save space in any dorm room, and I had one when I lived in the dorms. However, one drawback is that there's no place to put your phone, tablet, books, or other items you may want while you're up there. This shelf will give you a place to put these items without having them fall on the ground. Before we start, it is important to remember that with any project, safety is the most important thing. And for that, Matt has a safety tip of the week for us.
Stand outside the saw's miter slots on each side of the blade in case of any unfortunate kickback occurs, so that it will be likely to pass by you.
Thanks, Matt. That was a really great safety tip. And now let's move on to the materials that you will need for today's project. The first thing you need is a 2x2 piece of 1/2-inch plywood, grade AC, 1 clean 2x4, 1x4 pine boards, screws of varying lengths, and an 1.25 inch conduit clamp, wood glue, baseboard trim, and optional is paint or stain to give the project some character. So the first thing we did was we cut the plywood top 15 by 9 inches. For both cuts we used a circular saw. We now need to cut 2 pieces of 2x4 at 15 inches for the supports.
Now we will cut the side rails and attach them with some 1.5 inch screws up from the bottom.
So now we're going to drill a couple of pilot holes through the top, and then we will go ahead and start attaching our side rails, and we'll do them one at a time. And so for these screws, we are using 1.5 inch screws, and we're making sure we didn't grab real thick ones. These are a lot thinner. These are galvanized and they're a lot thinner. Go ahead and do the back side now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our side rails and set these up. And we know we got to shave just a little bit off with the saw. So we're going to take them back to the saw and shave just a little bit off. So now we got this piece in here and it's going to sit in there pretty tight. Now we're going to have Matt drill the pilot hole. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And now for a little bit of added strength and to keep this together, we're going to put a couple of screws in from the sides here. And again, we will drill our pilot holes first, like always. We want to make sure that they sink into the wood just a little bit, because we're going to trim this box out a little bit.
Joe, when you say flush, what do you mean?
So there's different ways of, there's different depths of putting screws in, and you can actually buy certain depth stoppers. So there's a depth stopper for drywall because you want the screw to sink into the drywall a little bit. We want these screws to be pretty much flush with the face of the wood, or maybe sunk in just a very little bit. You don't want to over drill it, because the more you over drill it, the less surface that's actually holding. So now we have a pretty basic box right here, and this would actually work very well for storing any kind of parts or anything at your shop or at home or even in your dorm room. This would be a great underbed storage, but what we need is a bed loft shelf. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this trim that I got at the hardware store, and we're going to use this to trim out the rest of the box to make it look a little bit nicer. And we're going to put it on 3 of the sides. And so what we're going to do is we have to set this up on the miter saw to cut for the corners. And on any miter saw, you set it up right here. Some you can tilt both ways, but this one only goes one way. And so we're going to release the knob, and it will tilt down, and it tells you where the little degree marker is there. And so we're going to set this on 45, which is as far as it goes. So what we're going to do here is we are going to put a little bit of glue on both pieces, on the side of the box and the piece of trim. And so we're going to have Matt go ahead and put glue on the first piece. And then what we're going to do is with some 1-inch screws from the inside, we're going to then secure this completely to the box. Now we're going to put a couple of 1-inch screws in. And now we have to put the supports on the bottom. And we could have done this first, but it would have made it a lot more difficult to get the sides on and keep this box flat while we worked. So now we're going to go ahead and put these in. So we're going to set it in to go about 1 inch. Go ahead and put a line. Then this will give us the spot to line up our 2x4. About 3 or 4 of them. Now the placement of this board is kind of up to you. It's not super important to get this one in a specific spot. It's more important to get the second one correct off of this one. So now that the first side is on, most important is getting this lined up. Now, in order for this to work, we have to have this 1 inch apart from each other. All right, so here is pretty much basically what the final project is going to look like. We've got our supports now, and we basically, for the install, we're going to take this and slide it right up over the top of the footboard. And this is actually going to be the back of the box, which will be towards the bed. And then this nicer end is going to go towards the front. All right, so we're here in a dorm room here. We're going to show you how to install this properly on a bed loft. And so we're going to go over here. And as you can see, we measured everything correctly. And so this is going to slide right over the loft. And now it has a little bit of a lean because we've got a little bit of extra space there. Now to shore it up, we're going to go ahead and take these rigid clamps. These are for like metal conduit or something like that. You can get them for right around 40 cents. And then we're going to take some 1¼ inch screws, and we are going to attach it there just as a fail-safe in case this thing does want to fall. And there you have it, a great bed loft shelf. This thing is pretty solid. It's not going anywhere. And we made this entire project for right around $10. Be sure to check out dormimprovement.com for future episodes and upcoming projects. That does it for us here this week. I'm Joe Kubicki, and this is Dorm Improvement.